It's time to grow and scale your coaching business the impact-driven, simple and sustainable way. Welcome to Rising Coaches with Sofia Bernardi. I'm your host, Sofia, mindset and business coach, supporting ambitious new and rising coaches to master their mindset, create an aligned and profitable strategy, and grow a six-figure business and beyond using the Rising Coach method. I built a $1 million business by the age of 26 in under 4 years, and I've coached hundreds across the globe to build incredible businesses that create freedom and fulfillment whilst having a whole lot of fun along the way. And in this podcast, I will teach you the mindset, strategy, and energetics to do the same. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to Rising Coaches with Sofia Bernardi. I'm your host, Sofia Bernardi, and in this episode, I am going to be walking you through my story from $0 to $1 million in under 4 years by the age of 26. So, 4 years. There is a lot that happens in 4 years. So I'm going to start off this episode by saying I'm going to do the very best to get these timelines, these facts, and these figures correct for you. I didn't track everything to a T when I first started my business, and everything feels like one big blur because so much has happened, not only in my personal life, but also within my business in these last 4 years. So I'm going to do my very best to paint a picture what each year in these last 4 years have looked like and what supported me to grow my business to $1 million in the way that I have and by the age that I have. I'm going to share with you the ups, the downs, and everything in between, because I know that these transparent, real, raw, and vulnerable episodes are so powerful. And I want you to feel my depth and my honesty within this episode for you to truly serve you. I don't want to paint some fluffy, flowery picture that leaves you feeling like business is meant to be this walk in the park and that it's supposed to just work and that it's easier for some than others. I'm really going to be honest with you because you hear those stories all the time, and yes, they're inspiring, but it also can leave you questioning yourself. And I don't want this episode to do that for you. I want this episode to be an example of what is truly possible for you when you have the right approach and you have the right support and you really want this in the most healthiest way. So, without further ado, let me dive on in for you. And of course, if you enjoy this episode, please share it on your social media, whether that's your Instagram stories or wherever you'd like to share things with your peeps, because it serves us so much when you share this far and wide. It enables me to continue creating powerful episodes like this for you. And if there's something that really resonated with you, I would love it if you left a review on the podcast and messaged me on Instagram as well, letting me know your biggest takeaways or anything like that, because I would love to connect with you. That is why I created this podcast. So just wanted to get that out of the way as well. Now let's dive in. So I officially started my business on the 17th of November, 2019. Now, how did I come up with that date? Well, that is the very day that I decided to take my first piece of action within the business. So I had thought about my coaching business, prior to that, but when I actually put it out there in the world was November 17th, 2019. I remember it like it was yesterday. I went live on my Facebook profile announcing to what was mostly just my friends and family at the time that I was starting a coaching business and that I was going to help women to build confidence in themselves. You could go back and find that very first live video on my Facebook profile today if you really wanted to. I've never taken it down, and like I said, it was a very important milestone on my journey. But when I actually decided to become a coach was around the 19th of September 2019. So I had attended Tony Robbins' 4-day event called Unleash the Power Within, also very much known as UPW. I attended that because I had no idea what I was doing with my life at the time. I was going through a breakup. I was feeling very lost, very stuck, didn't feel good enough, had no idea what to do with my life. And I loved Tony Robbins. I had read his books and I was following him closely. I was a big fan of his, and I found out that he was running this event in Sydney, Australia. And I was at the time living in Adelaide, Australia. And I thought, I'm going to fly there and I'm going to go to that event and I'm going to change my life. And I really want you to hear those key words, because there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people that go to this event multiple times a year, and not everyone changes their life. And this is almost like a lesson in of itself, is that to put pressure on a book, a course, or a person, or a coach, whatever that may be, that it's going to change your life, is a lot of pressure, not only for yourself, but also on that thing. You don't just go to something and then you walk away with your whole life changing, unless you decide that you're going to. So my point is that there's lots of people that go to those events, and not everyone changes their life, because not everyone, it has to be the right time and place for you. You have to grab certain learnings, but more importantly than all of that, you have to actually take action and make decisions from those things. I made a decision before going to that event that it was going to change my life, and not from a place of pressure, but because it was a really, really big deal. Not only did I feel like I needed to change my life, but I wanted to change my life. And it was such a big commitment that I was making to myself. The ticket to go to this event was $997, which at the age of 21 was a lot of money for me. And so I decided this is going to change my life, because I'm really putting everything on the line, so I thought. And it changed my life, not necessarily because of how magical that event was, but more because of how I took notes and how I took action. I made decisions at that event. This is the thing I see go wrong with so many people, is they don't actually make any decisions. They just hope that, someone else is going to change them, or something else is going to change them, without them actually making changes. And so I really wanted to share that, because I don't necessarily want the lesson to be, go to that event and your life will change. It will only change if you decide that it will, and you make certain decisions from that. And that applies for any course or coach or event or book or circumstance. Like, it will work and it will be powerful if you decide that it is, and you act accordingly from a place of self-responsibility. So I didn't go there thinking, Tony Robbins is going to change my life. I went there thinking, I'm going to change my life, and Tony Robbins is going to help me to do that. And that's exactly what happened. So I went to that event feeling quite lost. I went by myself. I was really nervous, but I was really excited, and I played full out of that event. And one of the biggest things they drill into your mind there is to have a coach. Have a coach, have a coach, have a coach. Like, if you want to get extraordinary results, then you need to invest in yourself, and you need to have someone backing you every step of the way and supporting you. And so what did I do? The moment that event finished, I went and hired the first coach I could find that I aligned with. And I had paid for a coach within a week or so of leaving that event. And that is a big component to why UPW was so effective, was because I took that immediate piece of action, where I know a lot of people attend that event and don't walk away and hire a coach, because it's scary to put more money on the line and to actually take that kind of action. When I was at UPW, I just discovered that coaching was a thing. I was looking at Tony Robbins on stage, and I was like, I want to be on stage. I want to help people. I love this environment and these kinds of people. And what I realized and connected the dots with is that Tony Robbins was a coach, and that it was possible to become a coach. A lot of the people that were at this event were coaches. And all of a sudden, I learned about this career path that I had never heard of, that just made so much sense. And it was in that very moment that I decided that that's what I was going to be. And this is why I had never known what I wanted to do with my life or who I wanted to be, because I didn't know that coaching was a thing. And the moment I realized it was, everything made sense. When I was in school, I wanted to help people. I knew that much, but I thought that the only ways I could do that was either being a counselor or being a psychologist. And had my grades been good enough, I probably would have gone and studied psychology. But the fact of the matter is, I nearly failed school and my grades were not very good. So I didn't get accepted into any university degree. And so I couldn't do that. And now it makes so much sense why I didn't, because I was never meant to be a psychologist. I was meant to be a coach. And I'm so, so eternally glad and grateful that this is the path that it's gone down, because it just aligns with me so much deeper. So the moment I found out coaching was a thing, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And I acted accordingly by hiring a business coach the moment UPW finished. So I hired a coach. That was end of September. And whilst I hired this coach to help me start my business, I fully recognized that I needed to do a lot of mindset stuff as well, because I had a lot of fear coming up, and there's just a lot of things to set up before starting a business, like getting clear on who you want to help and how you want to help them, and actually registering the business, and all of those little things I felt like I had to have set up before I could officially put it out there in the world. I needed to get that clarity first, as I didn't know the first thing about doing this. Hence, I hired a coach. And so it took me from, I suppose, the end of September to the 17th of November to actually put it out there, which in the scheme of things is not that long. I see some of you taking years to make a decision. Just go and do it. But for me, it took a couple of months. And I'm so glad I had a coach, because honestly, if I didn't, not only would it have taken me years, but also I would have been too scared to start. Half the reason I started on the 17th of November was because my coach said, put a post on Facebook saying that you are going live on this date at this time to announce something very exciting. So that's what I did, and I was almost forced to go live because I had put that announcement out, which was way easier than the actual live itself, several days prior. And that's why I had to go live, and it was that accountability and that push that really prompted me into action. So come November 17th, I go live and I announce it, and it's mostly my friends and family watching, but nonetheless, there was a lot of traction and excitement. And I made the call to action at the end of that live that I was going to coach 5 people for free for 12 weeks on this topic, and if it resonated with you, for you to reach out to me. And I had a few people reach out to me, but after all of that, it ended up that just one person was willing to commit. And there's a really key lesson in this as well, that, you know, when you do things for free, you are going to have a lot of uncommitted people in your space. So even though it was free, only one person actually ended up, going all in on that. And, in hindsight, I'm actually glad that it was just one person in the end, because I had a lot to learn from that experience, and it was very positive. But nonetheless, I think it would have been a little bit overwhelming or scary to coach 5 people for free just starting out. Whereas instead, I could build a really deep relationship with this one person and do it powerfully. And that was enough experience to then charge moving forwards, which I did. So I've only ever coached one person for free. And then went straight to paying clients. That is another lesson. Just do not coach people just constantly for free. You will question your worthiness, and you will really struggle to get out of that and start charging. So I'm really glad I only worked with one person for free. You don't even need to do that whatsoever, especially if you have just even a fraction more experience than I did at the time. But the reality was, I'd only just turned 22. I had no qualifications, no prior experience, and was very new to this. And so working with one person for free was quite helpful. But if you have a qualification or certification or experience in whatever it is you help people with, you honestly do not need to do free coaching. So just wanted to share that transparently as well. I ended up working with this person for 12 weeks for free, and then I offered her to continue working with me at $100 a session. Oh no, it was $50 a session for her actually. She was a university student, and she said yes to that. So I gave her half price off. I said it's normally $100 a session, but for you it's going to be $50 because you're my first client, and because she was a uni student and I want to help her out. She said yes, and she worked with me for probably 6 months after that, which was really, really special. And I'm so grateful for that opportunity to do that. And we caught up once, and yeah, she was really lovely, and I helped her a lot to, she started getting A's in her grades. She got her dream job. She just built so much confidence in herself. She started running and reaching those milestones. Like, she just achieved so much in different areas of her life, and I'm very, very proud of her. So that was a really, really cool experience. The first year in business was slow. It was hard and it was scary. Not only did I have a lot of fears and doubt come up, but also, if you listen to the key date of November 17th, 2019, you all know what happened early 2020, right? The global pandemic, which absolutely threw a spanner in the works of added uncertainty and pressure. In hindsight, I'm very grateful for it, because it sort of forced me to start my coaching business, because the whole world turned online. And because I didn't have much else to do during that year work-wise, I could pour time into my business. So it sort of propelled me forward into action. But of course, there was uncertainty and scarcity around all of that because everyone was freaking out. And, it could have been so easy for me to be like, no one's going to invest now because, there's so much going on in the world. But really, I flipped it to see that actually people need my help more than ever now. So I decided to create a private Facebook community where people could join the group to get away from all of the negativity and noise that was online at the time and come into a safe and positive place. And I just started helping people and adding value in this group. I started running events in this group. It was something I felt so naturally compelled to do, which is really funny because 4 years later, it's now what I teach as a strategy to start, grow, and scale your business. And I'm very passionate about the topic because it's fun, it's sustainable, it's scalable, it's simple, and it's aligned. It feels really congruent and aligned and just so, so enjoyable. And it's what I've done from pretty much day one in my business up until now. It's supported me to sign some of my first clients and now supports me to make, tens and tens of thousands of dollars per month. And I've had 6-figure launches and have made ultimately over $1 million to date doing that very thing. So it was something I naturally did. And then with the help of my coach at the time, I was setting, strong foundations of doing inner mindset work on myself, but then also small things like getting clear on my niche, my messaging, what I was selling and that sort of stuff. That was really, really helpful. Felt slow, but there was progress and I got there eventually. Then if I move on to year 2 in business, I was still working lots of jobs at the time. So for the first 2 years in business, I was still working lots of jobs. I was working 5 jobs at some point. I was walking dogs, cleaning floors, cooking food for people, decluttering people's homes. I was working at a cafe. I was working at weddings. I was babysitting children. I worked at my uncle's lotto booth. Like I was doing all sorts of things on and off around, the first 2 years of business to make money on the side, as I was not making enough money to live off entirely in my coaching business, and I just wasn't ready to take that leap. So I would say for the first 2 years I was still working all these casual jobs, and in the second year was when I slowly started to back down on some things so that I would have more time and capacity to work on my business. So I'm not going to be one of those coaches that says burn the boats, quit all your jobs, go all in that sense. You've got to do what makes the most sense for you. Like, how much savings do you have? How safe does it feel to do that? Like, how much is it holding you back working in another job and all those things? Like, it's going to be different for everyone. I would definitely not recommend burning the boats, quitting all your jobs if you don't have a single paying client and you don't have any savings or anything like that. I'm not saying it can't work. I'm just saying that that's quite often for the average person going to be really dysregulating, and I wouldn't recommend that. So I stayed in jobs for as long as I possibly could until I was making, probably on average anywhere between $4,000 and $6,000 per month in my business. And it had gotten to that point where going to work at babysitting and cafes and weddings and things like that was actually starting to cost me money more than it was making me money. Like, my point being is I started to realize that I could actually make more money faster in my business if I just had more time. So I slowly started to leave some of those jobs, which was scary. It was so uncomfortable because I was really grateful for all of the jobs that I had, and it had served me so much. And I had a lot of flexibility, even though I was working a lot of jobs and a lot of hours. It was really hard to turn that down, but I just had to trust that I was making the right decision, and I definitely was. And so when I started to clear my calendar a little bit more, I just started taking my business even more seriously, and my business started to grow. I was a mindset coach helping women to build confidence. I still had a lot of fear, and I felt like the first 2 years was a bit of a roller coaster of emotions. In particular, in the second year in business, I feel like, I sort of started to come to the reality of like how not every month is the same and how there's a lot of uncertainty. And it was something that I wanted more and more by that point. And so I really felt those emotions. And I remember at the beginning of every month just crying and getting so upset because I felt like I was starting at zero at the start of every month, and it was hard, and I was comparing myself massively to other people, and yeah, it was a mess. And my partner was so supportive and loving towards me because I was just an emotional roller coaster. It was really scary and uncomfortable. I would say the biggest things I was struggling with in that second year of business was definitely comparison and judgment towards myself and fear that it wasn't going to work out. I was getting results, but I was so hard on myself. I was very quick to dismiss some of those results, or I just felt like at the start of every month, I was like, quote unquote, starting again at zero. It's like I discredited everything I'd done the month prior, and I convinced myself that I wasn't going to have the same month that month. And that was, very up and down and not so enjoyable. Until I sort of got sick of that behavior. I got sick of getting upset about the same thing over and over and over again, that eventually I stopped doing that, and instead I started to celebrate the first week of every month rather than being in pain about it. But that was a long lesson to learn. So definitely a lot of mindset stuff still coming up even in the second year of business. But momentum definitely started to pick up. And from memory, that was where I had my first 10K month and my first 20K month and 30K month. And it felt really exciting when it was all working. And it was when I had cracked the code on the first 10K month that honestly, my belief absolutely skyrocketed during that time. It was also in my second year of business that I started to invest in myself at a much deeper level. I knew that the first coach I had was absolutely amazing, but also I needed more and I needed different things. So I started to pay for a lot more support. I remember my next big investment was $9,000 to be coached by a very masculine male, which very, very much served me at the time, teaching me all the strategies on how to grow my business. And this is where I started doing a lot more and showing up a lot more, simply because I was paying a lot more. And so I was taking a lot of action, still had a lot of fear, but I started to really get results because I was acting accordingly based on the investment I made. Whenever I make an investment in anyone or anything, I don't dabble in that. I go all in on it. I take it seriously. I play full out, and I show up to as many things as I possibly can because I care. I care about where I put my money, and I also want to respect the coach that I'm going to show up and be a really great client if I myself wanted to attract great clients. So I walked my talk in that aspect, and I definitely started to get results there. I probably by this point, I would say, again, the timelines are a little bit blended, but I would say, it was in my second year of business that I had definitely made six figures and potentially even multiple six. Again, it gets a little bit blurry here, the timelines. But I had made a lot more money within 2 years of business for sure. So I reckon I definitely made a couple of $100,000, I would say. And so that's that. Also, my second year of business, I then, once I finished working with that masculine male coach, which was really helpful, I decided that, some of those strategies that I was taught to do didn't feel so sustainable or aligned towards the end. I sort of had started to realize that there were other ways to grow my business, and I just needed to find out what those ways were, because I noticed that there were people online that were making money in a much easier way and a more enjoyable way than I was. I felt like I was really hustling, and I wasn't burning myself out by any means, but I could just tell that, when I thought long term that wasn't what I wanted to be doing, was like not cold DMing, but, coldish DMing and adding so many friends on Facebook every day, and just like very much a quantity thing. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that. I still do aspects of that today, but just in a much more aligned way than I was at the time. I was very much just like doing exactly what I was told, following every word to a T, whereas now I have a lot more flow and personalization with each relationship that is built, which has made a really big positive impact. So on top of that, in that year, I also hired an embodiment coach or an energy coach, because I realized that was a bit of a missing piece. I had learned the mindset to grow my business. I had also learned the strategy to grow my business. But what I had begun to learn just from what I had followed online and seen online and just started to feel intuitively as well, was that energetics, once I learned what that was what was going to make my journey so much more easeful and enjoyable. So I hired an embodiment coach, and that's where I learned the power of the masculine and feminine energy, alignment, embodiment practices, letting go of what doesn't serve me, forgiveness, all of these sorts of things. And I noticed a big skyrocket in my business at this point. This is what allowed me ultimately to go start jumping, quantum leaping, for lack of a better word, in my business. It's what took me from, 6K months to 10K, and then 10 straight to 20K. I started to really jump and remain at that level as well. And it wasn't because of that particular embodiment coach, but more the combination of mindset, strategy, and energetics together. It was merging all three. And I've learned this at such a deep level now, and this is what I teach my clients. But you can have a great mindset, and that's going to be fantastic because it's ultimately going to allow you to take action. But if you have no idea what you're doing, it's going to be hard to get results. So you need to have the strategy so that you're taking action consistently and confidently, but also you're strategically taking that action so that you get results. And then there's only so long you can do that for. You can just keep taking more action and having, a stronger mindset. But eventually the answer is no longer to just work more and more and more, unless you do want to burn yourself out and hustle yourself to the ground. So that's where energetics comes in, where by becoming a match energetically for what it is you want to call in your life, whether it's more money or more success or more abundance or more fulfillment, by being a match of that, you don't have to work harder, but you're working smarter. That's half the work, is the energetic component, right? And so it was the combination of the three that allowed me to quantum leap. It was like I had cracked some sort of code there. And that's where I realized that missing piece that I had. And that's what I teach my clients today. I teach them mindset, I teach them strategy, and I teach them energetics, right? So that they can grow and scale their business. And it works. And not just even your business, it's the combination of those three. Strategy can be, strategy in terms of actioning any goal in life, and energetics, you're being a match for whatever it is you want in your life, and same with mindset. So it actually applies across the board, but here specifically I'm talking about in business. So that's what happened. In year 3 in business, which was in 2022, I transitioned from mindset coaching to business coaching. Now, it's not to say that business coaching makes you more money, and that was never the plan or anything like that. It was simply because I was a mindset coach for women, helping them build confidence, and that I did, and I was very successful in that. But what happened, which was really strange, is part of what I was doing with that is I was helping women who were in the position that I was in, back in 2019, where they didn't know what to do with their lives and they didn't have the confidence. And so when I helped people find their purpose and build the confidence to go after their dreams, what was really interesting is a lot of these women that I was helping decided that they too wanted to become a coach to help other people, now that I had helped them move through their biggest blocks and pain points and struggles. And so I was all of a sudden having all of these coaches in my world asking me, how did you start and grow your business? And for a long time I ignored it and actually referred those people on to business coaches, because I was like, I know how to do it, but I'm not a business coach, so go see this person. And I would refer people. And I just kept doing that, and it kept happening. And then outside of my clients who decided to become a coach, I just in general, from being a coach and being in that space, had a lot of people following me that all of a sudden were asking me, how have you grown so quickly, Sofia? How have you grown so sustainably? How are you having so much more fun than I am having? And it was really interesting. And even in the programs I was in, I had a lot of people in the same programs as me, nowhere near doing as well as I was. And from what I know now, obviously there's a lot that plays into that. But one of the bigger pieces was a lot of people either just had the strategy or just had the mindset or just the energetics, and not the combination of all three. And so I had all of these people asking me, how are you doing it? How are you doing it? How are you doing it? And I eventually realized, wow, I'm attracting all of these people without even trying. Imagine if I tried. And so very slowly I started working with a few people one-on-one in regards to growing their business, and they started growing their business, and it was fun. But then I started to feel like a bit of a broken record. I'm like, I am repeating the same thing each week to different people. Imagine if I turned this into a group program so I could just give more and repeat myself less. And so one day I decided to put in a group chat 4 of my one-on-one clients at the time who I was helping to grow their business. And I was like, hey guys, I can give you guys double the amount of value for half the amount of money if we combine this into a group program. It's going to be $2,500 and it'll go for 6 months. Who wants in? They all said yes. All 4 of them said yes, and I had my first $10,000 day. So I'd had $10,000 months, but this was my first $10,000 day because they all paid in full, and it was just amazing, and I couldn't believe it. So I had literally created a program in that moment, and I took immediate action and got an immediate result. Now, the lesson that I want you to hear here is that you don't need to overthink things for months and months and months on end. If you have an idea and you trust it, go all in on it. I did not plan that group program for more than 5 seconds, and that program is the program that I still have today that has made me hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So trust and back yourself and just take massive, rapid, consistent action. It's all about action taking. So that's a little lesson there for you, a little golden nugget, if you will. So that is something that I did and had those 4 women join, and then I just started enrolling more people into that program, and slowly over time increased the price point of that program. It is a lot more than $2,500 now, let me tell you, but that's where I started, just transparently, and I loved every single second of it. So that's how my mastermind, which is now called Rise to 6, was birthed. And prior to that, it was called the Rising Coaches Mastermind. And prior to that, it was called Dream Catchers. That's the name I came up with that day, which is so funny. So I transitioned to business coaching in 2021, the end of it, and then went full time in it in 2022 from memory. And there was a little bit of a bit of a dip when I initially transitioned, and I knew there would be because I had gone for several years talking about helping women build confidence in themselves to bring their vision to life, to all of a sudden talking about business and strategy and marketing and branding and sales and all of the things. So I felt a bit of stagnation, but not for too long, but maybe a couple of months it felt a little bit quiet, and then all of a sudden it really boomed again. So the little lesson I want you to take here is that it doesn't matter what your niche is. Like, if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to struggle. So I hear this all the time, people saying, if I was just a business coach, or if I did business, I'd make more money. Not necessarily, guys. I know so many people that don't make much money at all as a business coach because they're not really congruent in it, or they don't know what they're doing in it. So the niche is not necessarily what makes you money. It's whether you know what you're doing or not, and having the confidence and the clarity and the strategy and the support around that that's going to allow that, and building a brand around it. But I was willing to go through that dip because I am in this for the long run. This is another little lesson. It's like, I didn't need to get these quick, massive wins. I was in business for the long run, and I still am. So there's no rush, there's no pressure, there's no urgency in that sense. I'm not saying I'm not ambitious and I don't want big and bold things. Of course I do. But I just don't put this world amount of urgency to the point that it seeps into conversations that I have with potential clients. Because I'm here to play the long game. I'm not just in it for the money. I'm in it for so much more than that. So I was willing to go through that dip, and then I persisted through that, and then my business really scaled. So in my 3rd year. If you're enjoying this episode, then I'd greatly appreciate it if you're not already, if you could take a moment to hit that subscribe button. Your support fuels our mission to bring you even more valuable content every week. My promise to you is that if you go ahead and hit that subscribe button, I'll continue making incredible episodes each week that help you to grow and scale your coaching business. Thank you so much, and let's get back to the episode. So in my 3rd year in business, things really, really quantum leaped there. That's where I had my first $80,000 sales month and was starting to make 50K months, 30K months, all that sort of stuff. And it was epic. And I really felt like that's where I started to really get a lot more clarity and a lot more confidence on who I was and what I was doing. By the way, in all of these years in business, I've had a lot of ups and downs, a lot of ups and a lot of downs. I've had fears and doubts and tears and breakdowns and questioning myself and doubting myself and all of those things, so much in every single year. I don't care what stage of business I'm at. I'm always going to have that. It's just going to be presented differently and be about different things. I cry a lot less now than I did, obviously, in my first 2 years in business, but I still struggle. I still get anxious. I still get overwhelmed. I still get fear and doubt, but just about different things, like higher level things, but it still happens. And I just want to normalize that for you. So yeah, my third year in business, things really took a turn for the better. And yeah, I made hundreds of thousands. I think I made like over $300,000 in sales in my third year in business from memory. Again, all of these lines are a little bit blurred because, I started at the end of 2019 for starters. And, it depends whether you're looking at the financial year, which is from the 31st of July till then, like that, or you're looking at the calendar year, which is like the 1st of January to December. Do you know what I mean? So that's why I get a little bit caught up in the numbers, because it really just depends what angle you want to look at it from. But yeah, I had a really epic year there, and that was my first year, I suppose, where it was like really full time the entire year. And I turned into a company after 2 years, I think. So I went from a sole trader, which is only going to resonate with you if you're in Australia, and then turned into a company, after I'd reached about 6 figures, like $100,000 in my business. So whenever that was, is when I did that. So yeah, that was my third year in business, and that then leaves me to my fourth year, which has been in the year 2023, which is what it is as I'm recording this. So I haven't actually even been in business for 4 years at the time of recording this. I'm recording this on the 6th of November, and as I said, it was on the 17th of November. That is my anniversary for my business. So technically speaking, in 11 days time, I have then officially been in business for 4 years. So the fourth year, this is the year that's been the most grounded and stable. I have felt incredibly stable. I've just had a consistent income the entire time, and it's slowly grown throughout time. Everything has felt quite easeful. I'm not saying I haven't ever felt overwhelmed. I haven't had any meltdowns. I have, but just nowhere near as many. I've had a lot of systems and structures and all the things in place. By the way, I think I hired my first virtual assistant in my second year of business, and then I hired my business manager in my third year of business. So this year, in my fourth year, I've had a business manager the whole year, and I've had a virtual assistant the whole year. So I have support now. And also, it was in my third year, now I'm backtracking a little bit, I hired a marketing coach. So at this point, I had a mindset / business coach. I then had a business coach. I had then had an embodiment / energy coach. And now I've got a marketing coach who I've stayed with for a couple of years now, because I officially believe in long-term mentorship. I don't believe in coach hopping. And that's absolutely what I was doing in the beginning, because I was finding my way. Like sometimes you've just got to go through a few people to find your person. But then when you find your person, stop searching for the missing secret and go all in on that if they can support you with all of the things. I have, of course, had many other coaches in between that, by the way, many. I've invested in courses and seminars and events and trainings and certifications and other business coaches and all of the things. It was a big, expensive lesson, but valuable lesson to learn that I have everything I need in one place. And I just also have had the financial ability to invest in lots of different people to learn different things. So I've had many coaches, but these are the core people that I suppose come to mind, because there was a big difference there where I was like relying or leaning on those people at the time. Like I just had one person at a time, and then the business coaches I've had outside of this were additional people where I was working with 2 people at once or whatever. But now I just work with one coach. I've stayed with her for years, and I'm very happy. And my business ultimately scaled as a result of being really consistent with the same coach rather than coach hopping and starting and stopping all of the time, which is why I really encourage my clients to, if they feel aligned with working with me, of course, to stay there. That's where the real growth is going to happen. So yes, my fourth year, been full-time, have support, had the same coach the whole time, in this time, and it's felt really easeful. And like I said, it's the 6th of November, and on the 29th of October, so just last week, 2023, I actually crossed over $1 million in sales. So from the 17th of November 2019 at $0 within my business to October the 29th, 2023 is how long it took me to make $1 million in sales. I'm talking about Australian dollars, and I'm talking about sales, not cash collected, meaning it's not $1 million in my bank account. It's $1 million that we have made that is due to come over the next few months, because people are on payment plans in my business, and so we've counted that, but it hasn't landed in the bank account yet, and it won't for the next 6+ months, which is fine. So yeah, $1 million in sales. So we did it in under 4 years. It's been a wild ride. It has been overall extremely positive, extremely rewarding, and extremely fulfilling. I'm sure you can hear by all of this that I went backwards and forwards a little bit because I don't know the exact numbers for the exact months and points. I would really have to do some deep searching there to figure all of that out for you. But essentially what you can hear from this is, on average over the last 4 years, I have made $250,000 in sales. That being said, of course, I did not make $250,000 in the first year in business or in the second year in business. And so what I hope you're hearing is that majority of the income has actually been made in the last 2 years of business. And what I also hope you're hearing is that it's taken 4 years to learn things, to do things, to implement things, to create a brand, and to master certain things in order to create this. So just because a lot of the money was made in the second half, it doesn't mean that the first half wasn't incredibly important. And the only reason I've made $1 million and more at this point in sales is because I persisted, even when it wasn't working, even when I wasn't making money, even when there was dips, even when there was meltdowns and breakdowns and challenging things. I've invested a lot of money in coaches that I didn't love, or services that weren't very supportive or ripped me off. I've, had to go through a lot of challenges. I've had to fire people, for the lack of a better word. And I hear stories all of the time from other coaches that are at a similar level or a much higher level than me, and they've gone through far more severe challenges and struggles than I have. Some people have had to fire multiple people or been completely burnt by other people. I haven't really had those experiences, but I've had really challenging experiences nonetheless. But overall, I would say that my journey has been very, very positive, and it's one that I get emotional and grateful looking back on, just to see, I was so innocent when I first started. I had just turned 22, had no idea what I was doing. I was working 5 casual jobs in hospitality, working for $20 an hour, and to go from that, living in my grandparents' basement and not knowing what to do with my life, that's where I was 4 years ago, to now having made over $1 million in sales, living in a completely different state. So I used to live in Adelaide, and we moved this year to Brisbane, Australia, with my partner, and we've been together, for this whole ride. I met him, in October 2019. So he's been with me literally from day dot of this experience. To now is just wild. I have $1 million business. I have the most incredible partner. I live in one of the most beautiful cities in all of Australia. I have the best clients in the world. I have a really high profit margin. So of course the profit margin has varied over the years. In the beginning, you're not profiting, you're investing everything back into the business and more to learn and to grow. And so ultimately you can make more money. But now what we sit at today is a really healthy profit margin of anywhere between 75 and 85%, which is freaking huge. Which is just something I'm just so grateful for. So yeah, great profit margin, great business, great clients, and a great and healthy personal life. I do work a lot. I love what I do. I love working because I'm very passionate about what I do, but I also get a lot of time off. I also have a lot of freedom. Today is a Monday and I've had no calls, and I've just been recording podcast episodes and working on my business and supporting my clients. But I also have some weeks where I work a lot and I have a lot of calls. But for the most part at this point, I have a lot of free space more often than not because of the way that I've designed my business. And yeah, I'm literally about to go on holiday for a week to Fiji with my partner next week in 7 days' time. And I'm just so excited. And I'm just it's because of my business that I'm able to do this. The fact that I could just book a holiday and I didn't have to ask for permission to a boss or a family member or anyone, I could just do it. And it barely touched my bank account because of the amount of income we have coming in and sitting there is just something that's just so wild for me, and I'll never take it for granted. I'm so grateful for it. So there's like a billion things I'm probably missing within this podcast episode that I could chat to you about in detail. And there's a lot that happens in 4 years for all of our lives. So I hope that you can hear that I've tried to share as much as possible, and also there's probably a lot of context missing. But in a nutshell, there's been lots of ups and lots of downs, and ultimately I'm so here for all of it because it's all taught me so much and gotten me to where I am today, which is having the most rewarding and fulfilling business ever. And I want this for everyone, and I'm on a mission to do just that. I help coaches to start and grow and scale their online business to bring in consistent $10,000 months and beyond using simple strategies and running online events. And that's exactly what I do. So in a nutshell, the biggest things that have supported me on this journey is mastering my mindset. There's no way I'd be taking action without it. That's involved a lot of healing and letting go and release and goal setting and planning and all of these sorts of things. The other thing that has really helped me is using simple strategies. I've tried all of the things. I've done all of the strategies. I know what works. I know what doesn't work. I know what feels aligned. I know what doesn't feel aligned. I know what's profitable and what's not profitable and all of the things. And I have found simple strategies that work no matter your stage in business and all organically. And then thirdly is running online events. Ultimately, this is where a lot of my income has been made, is through running events, and it is simple, sustainable, and scalable, and I'm obsessed with it. So my personal belief from my 4 years in business is that if you master your mindset, you apply simple strategies, and you run online events, you create aligned, scalable results in your business. There are not many coaches that can tell you that their process works no matter your stage in business, whether you are at day dot or at 7 figures like I am. And my strategy does. It works across the board. These things are things I've been doing from day one that I have just mastered and simplified and improved and tweaked that work to this day. And on top of that, there are not many coaches that can tell you that they've done this starting without any marketing or business experience prior to starting their coaching business. Like a lot of business coaches have like a decade of marketing experience from corporate world, or they've had 3+ businesses before. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. That's all amazing and only supports them. However, my point in sharing this is that what I'm trying to say is I started at zero. And if I can start at zero and in under 4 years generate over $1 million in sales, then you can too. And I just turned 22, right? I was 21 when I decided, I was 22 when I actually started, and I'm 26 years old. I just turned 26 in September. So if I can do that without Facebook ads, without, any prior experience, and at the age that I was and am, then you can too. Like, that's the message here. So there's not many coaches that have an approach that works at all stages of business, and there's not many coaches that actually started at zero to be full-blown evidence for you that you can do it too. So that's really my ultimate takeaway. Mindset, strategy, events, like that is where it's at. And I have the story and the proof and the results to show it. And what's more important than my results is that my clients who work with me are able to get the same results. They are getting the same results. They are building businesses that generate 6 figures overall a year. They are having $10,000 months, $20,000 months, $30,000 months. And I'm working with coaches that are just starting out, that are working towards their first sale, their first 2K month, their first 5K month, their first client. Like, everyone's at a different stage, but ultimately when you apply this method, the Rising Coach method, and you master it, you're going to create these results and more, like not even limited to it. I've had clients that work with me for 48 hours and they, make a sale. I've had clients that, make their money back in 7 days. I've had clients that have worked with me for 3 weeks and brought in almost $20,000. I've had clients that run one event using my formula and, bring in almost $13,000. Like, literally anything is possible when you master this process that works for everyone that goes all in on it. Like, that's the story. Like, that's why I wanted to share this story, to just be shining evidence. I didn't have some fancy qualification or degree or any fucking idea what I was doing, to be honest. And yet I'm here. And I will be doing this business until I grow old because I don't know what else I would do other than this. I am so passionate. I'm so obsessed. I love my clients. I love what I do. And honestly, yes, going on holidays is great. Taking a break is great. It's essential. It's needed. It's required. It's recommended. And I've created a business that I don't even crave a break from because I love it that much. Like, I really love what I do. I love that I'm sitting here on a Monday afternoon recording podcasts. I love that I get to check in with my clients every day and create epic content for them and all of the things. I love it because I'm passionate about what I do and I know how much it's changed my life. And when you have something, whether it's a recipe or, an exercise or a process or a formula or something that takes people from one place to another, that is something that you're ultimately passionate about, that has changed your life, you want to share it. You want to teach it and scream it out to the world. And that's what I found. And it didn't happen overnight, as you can hear. And it didn't happen without any blood, sweat, or tears or anything like that. That's all been involved. And I'm going to be so transparent about that. I've had days where I've questioned myself as a whole. Like, it's uncomfortable when you put yourself out there. I care about what people think. I've had struggles with people pleasing and boundaries, and I've been reactive and I've been judgmental and I've been harsh. Like, I've done all of those things. I've had people request refunds, but on the scheme of things, it's been such a small percentage. Like 99% of the time, it's been amazing. But you have to be willing to go through those hard times and those struggles in order to create the life and the results that you want ultimately. And so it's like, are you willing to go through the challenges, the struggles, and the hardships to create a thriving, beautiful business? Like, if you look up to Tony Robbins, for example, do you think he doesn't have people requesting refunds and saying that he's a horrible person and making hate accounts with him and, leaving bad reviews on YouTube videos? Of course he gets all that. But they're just higher level problems. And in life, the goal isn't to remove problems. There's always going to be problems. There's actually suffering all around us 24/7 if you look out for it. Like, there's always suffering. Life is a bunch of suffering. And can you find the beauty and the goodness within that? Can you see how these things are happening for you, or how it's a part of life, and how you can strengthen your mind and your awareness and your problem solving skills to move through it? My business isn't free of problems. They're just really high quality problems now. And I will continue to experience more problems that then become more high quality. So the goal isn't to remove the problems, just to improve the quality of those problems and to get even better and more efficient at moving through them. And it's not always going to be walk in the park, but that's not what you sign up for when you sign up for business. If you want to walk in the park, go work for someone else in a corporate role. And it's not even going to be a walk in the park, because again, nothing is, but it certainly is easier than business. I tell you that much. Business is hard. Business has challenges, but it is so freaking rewarding if you keep going and you go all freaking in on it. Like, it is so rewarding and you will not regret it. But you have to be interested in it. You have to care. You have to want it so much more than the money, because ultimately it's quite funny. People start a business because they want the freedom, and then what they realize is they work so much more than they ever did in corporate. But it's a different kind of work because it's towards your vision, your mission, and it's like you're doing it in the way that you want. And so in corporate, you're trying to like clock on and clock off and you're waiting for 5 p.m. In business, it's like you're not even waiting. It's just, it's ongoing, and that in of itself can be a lot. But that's where boundaries and standards and, procedures in place are really, really important. But ultimately, like, you do need to lean into the experience. It does require work, and anyone says that they barely lift a finger and money just comes flooding in is freaking lying to you, or you're missing a whole lot of context. Because the reality is, the harsh truth is, if it were that easy, more people would do it and more people would succeed in it. There's nothing wrong with you if you're not currently succeeding. It just is hard. Maybe you don't have the right coach yet. Maybe you haven't been in the process long enough. Maybe you haven't taken enough action. Maybe you've got subconscious blocks that you're not aware of and you need to release them. Maybe you haven't found the right support. Maybe you're not taking enough self-responsibility for your role in things. There could be so many things at play, but ultimately, like, this is all part of the journey. So I could go on, as you can tell. I'm very passionate about this topic because I want people to realize you can have the freaking life that you want to live, but you have to be willing to go through all of the things that come with that, and that if it were that easy, everyone would have it. But the reality is a very small percentage. So if you want to be that top percentage of people, you have to act like it as well. And that's what I've been willing to do because I want this and I therefore have it. But also, I'm willing to put in the work, the money, the time, the effort. I have the resilience and I'm willing to learn the skills that I don't yet have. That's going to allow me to continue to grow. And I see problems as like beautiful things. They're gifts in my life that allow me to evolve and grow. So that's the mindset that's required. And then you apply that with simple strategies and running online events if you really want to scale and have fun along the way, and you'll be laughing. So if you would like my support, if you've resonated with my story and my journey and the way I teach and my personality, which surely by now you have much greater context for, you can book a free 30-minute call with me and I will support you to get clear on where you're at, where you want to be, what's holding you back, and a bit of a 3-step plan on what you can do to actually move forwards. And if you decide that you actually want help with that process, then we can chat about working together. I have different programs dependent on your stage in business and your budget and your desires. And from there, we can find what's best for you, or you can walk away with that plan and you'll be set to go. But if you want personalized support, if you want a handhold and you realize that support's a big component of growing and scaling, then book in that chat. It's for committed, ambitious coaches that want to do big things in their life, and I would love to connect and support you to reach your financial goals and your emotional goals as well. So book a call, let's chat, and thank you so much for listening to my story and for playing a role in my journey of getting me to my first $1 million, impacting lives all around the world and living my best life in the hopes that you see that it is absolutely possible for you. I'm so fucking grateful for every single one of you, whether you've been there from day dot, you've just entered my world, or anything in between. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in next week's episode. Although I can't see each one of you, I know you're there because of the downloads we see each week, and I appreciate your presence immensely. If something in this episode resonated with you, I'd be thrilled to hear about it. Connect with me on Instagram at Sofia Rose Bernardi. Share your key takeaways or simply say hello. Your thoughts mean the world to me. Remember, it's your feedback that keeps this show going. Until next time, take care.